Are you hungry? Are you willing to be hungry? Because that's how this whole thing starts. The Eucharist is the source and summit of the Christian life, the gift where God literally gives us himself. And it started with a crowd that was willing to go hungry. Not that they complained about it. These people saw paralyzed men get up and walk, fevers disappear, leprosy wiped away by Jesus. So they followed him without cell phones or Google Maps. Jesus was known for walking from town to town without any schedule or itinerary published ahead of time. The choice was to follow him now or maybe miss the chance to see him altogether. Now, if you had heard of a man in Baldwin who could heal COVID, or a woman in Lydia who could cure cancer, would you not go check it out, even if it meant skipping lunch or dinner? Even if it meant traveling deep into cane fields where you couldn't drive and had to walk a good ways? Because that's kind of what these people have done. They just up and followed him across the lake without preparation. Are you willing to go hungry if it means seeing Jesus? One practical expression that we have in our liturgy is the fast before communion. In order to receive communion, you are supposed to avoid eating for at least an hour before communion. No food. Plain water is okay, but even chewing gum breaks the fast. The reason for this is to acknowledge that communion, the Eucharist, is not ordinary food. It's to create a distance, a distinction. It's a minimal way of making that difference tangible and real to us. But certainly more is possible. I encourage you to do more than the minimum. If you don't get much from going to communion, try fasting for more than the minimum hour. The hungrier you are, within reason, the more you look forward to communion. The more you tell your own body, this is something important. And even if more fasting isn't what you need, and it might not be, examine your attitude anyway. Is your religion a matter of convenience? If the choice is between Mass and a football game, a day of golf, a visit to the beach or the casino, which do you choose? A choice between driving to confession or staying home where it's comfortable. Obviously, doing those things is not evil, but there are times when pursuing one means sacrificing the other. If these people, who don't even know who Jesus is, not really, are willing to drop everything, to spend their time, energy, and sacrifice a meal just to get close to him, how much more should we, who know who Jesus is, be willing to face hunger and inconvenience and even suffering to encounter him in the sacraments? When Jesus asks, where can we buy enough food? He's calling attention to what they lack. Recognizing their own limitations, the apostles resort to borrowing from a child who was apparently the only person quick thinking enough to grab food for the journey. 5 loaves, 2 fish. Not enough, but Jesus takes it anyway. Following Jesus out of curiosity, or out of habit, or just for the chance to see a miracle, is not enough. If we follow him, like the apostles, he will turn and ask us to do what is beyond us. Do you recognize your limitations? Do you admit them to Jesus? It can be tough for anyone, especially for men, to say, I don't have enough. But that honesty is necessary. And once you've acknowledged your own insufficiency, are you willing to still share what little you do have? Why are you at Mass? Are you here as the hungry crowd? Are you like the apostles who admit they don't have enough? Are you like the little boy who's willing to give his 5 loaves even though it couldn't possibly make a difference? When you come to Mass or confession, when you call for anointing of the sick, do you believe, really believe, that it offers something you cannot provide for yourself? And Mass is not just what we can get. It's about what we can give. Jesus could have made the bread and fish appear from thin air, but he didn't. He asked his apostles to give what they had. Jesus could appear right here in the flesh, but he doesn't. He asks us to provide bread and wine, time and attention. All baptized Catholics share in Jesus' mission. So Jesus is asking you, not just me, to feed the world with his grace. You don't just watch Mass. You assist by your presence, your attention, your prayers, your responses. Yes, we have to first admit to God and each other how little we have to offer. I confess that I have greatly sinned through my own grievous fault. But then we cannot be ashamed of what we do have to offer. We cannot be stingy to offer the 5 loaves of our prayer, the 2 fish, and what we can contribute to the offertory, and trust in Jesus to multiply it. And Jesus does multiply. No one is quite sure how, but these fish and bread just keep coming, and everyone gets as much as they need. But Jesus, the God of the universe incarnate, is not satisfied with enough. No. He's got to go above and beyond in abundance. His multiplication leaves all these extra bits and fragments, and he does not like waste. So the apostles have to collect what's left. 12 wicker baskets full. The symbolism isn't lost on the 12 apostles. They recognize this means that their job is to collect the fragments of the 12 tribes of Israel, the lost members of God's people. And those people are ready to be gathered, or at least they think they are. They're ready to make Jesus king, but they don't quite understand what they're asking for. Not yet. So do you let the fragments of grace go to waste? The grace given in every sacrament is abundant. It's way more than we could possibly use in the moment we receive it. For centuries, Catholics received communion maybe a few times a year, and yet they had enough grace to become saints. How? Because they gathered up those fragments and they did not let it go to waste. When receiving communion, their first thought wasn't to run out of the church to beat traffic, but to give thanks, to be in communion with Jesus, to converse with him and carry him with them when they left, to make use of it throughout their lives. Anointing of the sick provides grace throughout an entire sickness, not just at the end. Confession and penance gives us the grace to avoid sin. It's not just the get out of jail card at the end. Baptism and confirmation once in your life gives you grace for a lifetime of holiness to be a saint. Just baptism is enough for you to be a saint. St. Paul speaks of the call you have received, this life of holiness, and he talks about humility, gentleness, patience, the virtues that Christians should have. These are the baskets that allow you to carry that grace into your life and the lives of others. Try celebrating the anniversary of your baptism and your confirmation the way you would a birthday or your wedding anniversary, which is also a sacrament worth remembering. Make these occasions a chance to renew that commitment to gather the fragments of grace in your life so that nothing goes to waste. The food of this earth doesn't last. Those who were healed by Jesus of their diseases still died. But our crucified King offers something that lasts forever. And so are you willing to go hungry in order to encounter the Lord? Are you willing to both admit that you have nothing to offer and offer all that you do have? And when the Lord offers all the grace you need and more besides, will you be ready to receive it so that nothing goes to waste?